All right, so what's this passage talking about? Former Google engineer James Damore is suddenly between jobs. He's been fired. Bloomberg reports for writing an internal memo blasting the web company's diversity policies. Okay, Google has long cultivated a reputation for hiring smart people, turning them loose and listening to them. This firing puts a giant dent in that reputation. Okay, so basically what she's saying that some guy got fired for some memo. Media reports describe Damore's memo as a rant, a tirade, a screed, sexist, anti-diversity, and a whole bunch of other bad things. Wow. I was almost afraid to read 10-page document. Might it traumatize or trigger me in some way, perhaps turn me into a raving axe murderer. Uh, Perhaps, but for you, my dear readers, I took the risk, my reaction. Wow. So we can understand from this part at least that this author is giving a narrative. So this is going to be an argumentative passage for sure. Either he's going to be for James Damore or against James Damore. Okay. Because this is kind of a reaction piece, an opinion piece, right? Okay. So really people are upset about this. The next 10-page document, I can find something to disagree with will be the first such 10-page document, but I'm frankly flabbergasted, confused out of mind, okay? At the vitriol greeting this particular memo, Damore's approach is both liberal in the classical sense and fully in line with any reasonable notion of diversity and inclusion, a representative sample. Okay, so Damore's approach is both liberal, as in he's not very, very strict in the classical sense. So really, and fully in line with any reasonable notion of diversity and inclusion. That means he's okay with the reasonable line of diversity and inclusion. I hope it's clear that I'm not saying that diversity is bad, that Google or society is 100% fair, that we shouldn't try to correct for existing biases, or that minorities have the same experience as that of the majority. Okay, so he's saying that this is all not true. My larger point is that we have an intolerance for ideas and evidence that don't fit a certain ideology. Okay, so basically what he's saying that we don't have tolerance for ideas which we don't think are right. I'm also not saying that we should restrict people to certain gender roles. I'm advocating for quite the opposite. So the author is open to having people of their own gender role, treating people as individuals, not just as a part of a group. Okay, Damore relates that he was dismissed for perpetuating gender stereotypes. Well, maybe. Part of the memo is couched in the language of science and biology and aimed at offering an explanation other than bias per se for unequal representation in certain tech industry niches. Okay, so basically what he's saying is that he put biological terms and he put scientific terms to explain why there's an unequal representation, of certain genders in certain niche careers or certain industry niche careers. Okay, what is niche? A specific, specialized career. But supposing for the sake of argument that Damore is incorrect in theory, how are his errors to be corrected and the problems of gender stereotypes transcended if discussion of those topics is forbidden? So let us assume that Damore is wrong. Okay, then how can we correct his errors? That certain niches have certain things and all. And how can we even discuss about these gender stereotypes and all? Okay, in a memo responding to the controversy, Google's Vice President of Diversity, Integrity, Gender and Governance, Daniela Brown, writes, part of building an open, inclusive environment means fostering a culture in which those with alternative views, including different political views, feel safe sharing their opinions. But that discourse needs to work alongside the principles of equal employment found in a code of conduct, policies, and anti-discrimination laws. Okay. In other words, feel safe sharing your opinions as long as they're approved opinions and deviate not a bit therefrom. Which means to say, as long as your opinions are approved by the Google's code of conduct, you're free to share them. Otherwise, clean out your desk and wait for security to escort you out of the premises. Which means if you share some kind of a thing that's not already pre-approved, you'll be fired. I fully support Google's right. So as I was saying, it's kind of an argumentative passage. But you know what? This is an argumentative passage, but it's very satirical. Okay, this guy is not really supporting Google's rights. Okay, anyways, let me finish it. I fully support Google's right to hire and fire anyone for any reason its management deems right and necessary. But the most dismissal over this innocuous. What's innocuous? Harmless. Okay, memo exposed to cancerous hypocrisy in the company's culture. Damore Gate. Usually in US, whatever happens becomes a gate. Okay. Like for here, it was Colgate, no, COAL gate, not Colgate. But anyway, so Damore Gate may someday be remembered as the beginning of the end for one's forward thinking and innovative enterprise. Okay, that means this would be the beginning of the end of Google. All right, so let's look at the first question. The first question says, what's the central idea of the passage? The one question that we love answering, right? Main idea of the passage questions. Companies like Google allow freedom of expression only as long as that expression fits well within their stated ideology. Google firing James Damore for writing an innocuous memo spells the end of no. Okay. Definitely not. See, an employee like Google should not have the right to fire employees for the, no, definitely not B either. Goes against the main idea. Google has exposed its hypocrisy by firing James Damore for writing innocuous memo. Yes. So amongst D and A, we can definitely go ahead with A because this is more contextually suited. Okay. Now over here, companies like Google allow freedom of expression only as long as. Okay. It's not about companies like Google. We are not looking at any other company at all. We are looking specifically at Google. Okay. All right. So the answer definitely is going to be A.